Hello everybody, welcome to this new episode of WpCasterPro tutorial. We are going to see how to manage authors. So what we want to do here is either creating authors that can add new episodes or allow authors to register autonomously and create new episodes. Since it's very hard to know in advance the amount of confidence that you can give to your authors, we provided a tool where you can craft specific permissions depending on the type of authors that you are writing. If you have full trust on the people that are on your website, you can simply create new administrators. Otherwise, if you're going to have external authors that you don't know and you want to handle the way that they can manage their podcast and limit their options, you can use the functions at the User Manager plugin page. So you can click on Author Settings and you will find several options. Let's start by creating a new author. So we go to Users, Add New. From this screen, you can create a new author. For the sake of this tutorial, we are going to create a fake author with a very simple access password. The important part is here. You may want to set the author as podcast author, not to author, because this can only create posts, or editor or administrator. So podcast author is your choice to go. Once done, add new user. And now we go with an incognito window. So Command Shift N or Control Shift N. Go to your website and log in user the new author. As you can see, the author can do a lot of stuff here. He can change his profile data, create new posts, upload medias, manage comments, and more. By default, this is the equivalent of a normal author, so has limited editing options, but not as limited as you probably want. What we have to do here is go back to our administrator page, go to Author Settings, and craft the permissions based on what we want him to do. Because remember that even if our user-generated content, the manager of the website is legally responsible of what he allows other people to post. So you want to make sure of what is being created in your website. Imagine that you can get spam content, you can get nasty stuff created by people you don't know. So you really want to make sure to limit the author permissions. The first checkbox allows to limit the editing of podcasts. So in this case, instead of seeing all of these things, you can limit the author to access only podcasts and his own episodes. Then, about podcast series. If you don't limit the series, authors can create, edit, or delete series. This is potentially a very big problem, because if you have other authors with their own series, somebody else can delete them. So we don't want this. Let's use limit series. And let's save. Now you will see that all of the series created by other authors are not available anymore. So the author can create series. These are podcast categories. Oh, also author can only add episodes to his own series. This is to prevent somebody to put an episode of a podcast underneath a series of somebody else. Special attention is for the categories, because you can make a category with insults, nasty names and stuff like this. So perhaps you don't want random authors to create categories from scratch. What you want to do instead is to just allow them assigning categories to their podcast. So as manager of the website, you can create and modify categories, but authors cannot create or delete them. They can only pick the ones they want. Otherwise, if you want to manually set the podcast under the categories you want, you can even close that option as well. So a podcast author cannot even pick the categories. You are going to do it for them as maintenance for your website. If you trust your authors more, then you can go for one of these two options. So the first one allows to assign, create, and edit categories. Or you can even allow them to delete categories. These two are very risky options that I would not recommend using if you don't know who your authors are. Somebody can even pretend to be a legitimate author and then use your website for nasty purposes. So this option or this option are the safest ones. Then we have the publishing option. An author without publishing option can only submit a podcast for review. Until you don't check it and you don't publish it, so you need an administrator or a reviewer to publish a podcast, the author cannot publish it himself. If you want people to allow publish, you just switch this on and people can publish this. If you are not 100% sure of who is putting content in your website, this is something you really don't want to use. People can put link to bad websites, can put content you really don't want on your website, and you are legally responsible for what is being published. So you always need to manually review the content from third-party authors. For this reason, if you make a multi-author website, you don't want to allow publishing straight away. Instead, leaving like this. Same thing is for editing. Why is this separated? Because if you don't allow publishing, you publish a podcast content from any author, and then they can edit it. They can create a fake podcast that you can publish and then replace the content with whatever content they want, link to spam or nasty websites or similar. So you may not want to allow editing. Instead, if you have a podcast like this, people need to submit this for a review. You need to publish this. And then people cannot edit it anymore. So you are sure that random people creating content in your website are not replacing their old podcast with content you don't know about. What they can do is, if any podcast is wrong, create a new episode to replace the old one. This last option is if you want authors to delete their own podcast. So if you have this on, what people can do is create a new podcast. Once it's approved, delete the old one. In this way, you can craft perfectly the permissions of your authors to match your desired level of activity. Now, you may want to allow people to subscribe and log in from your website front end. To do this, we need to set up WooCommerce, because WooCommerce allows a very good front-end interface, perfectly styled with the front-end forms and colors, instead of going from the ugly WP admin link. To do this, we are going to sneak peek into the next chapter, which is premium podcasting, because the first part of this chapter contains the instructions for the WooCommerce setup. So let's go to the point 8, how to set up a premium subscription podcast. And we are going to see how to correctly install WooCommerce to allow author login, even if we are not setting a premium podcasting business. Let's go to plugins, add new, search for WooCommerce. Install and activate. Now this is going to redirect us through their wizard. This might look complicated, but don't worry. This is fully covered in our documentation. You can just set up basic information. So set up my store. You may want to go like this. Set up your stuff. This you can skip. This is for tax purposes. So if you are not going to sell nothing right now, you can set this up later. This stuff you don't want to install right now. And here we go. What you need to have here is a login page. So check among your pages and you will find a page called My Account. This page should look like this. Now, if this page is not existing, so WooCommerce didn't create it yet for you, it's very simple. Just go to WooCommerce and make sure you have additional steps that you can skip. Status, tools, and you can use a tool that is here to create the missing pages. So here it is. Create default WooCommerce pages. Now, if your author is going to go from there, they are going to see these two easy to access buttons. They can create a new podcast or manage the podcasts. Here we go. You can go from the customizer and you will find a few more options after WooCommerce was set up. So header and menu buttons, and you can add a user button, which will appear up here. And let's publish. At this point, when your authors need to log in, they can just click here and they will be redirected to their own page, or if they're not logged in, they will have a login or registration form. So if they log out, click here, and they can log in. You see they cannot register yet because a couple more options are required. These options are well documented in our step-by-step tutorial. This is what we need to do. Go to the settings and just copy the options from our documentation. Go to products. Make sure to set this like this. This is the option that you need if in a certain moment you want to make premium podcasting. So not Ajax add to cart, but redirect to the cart. So this is much easier for the user to become premium. Now, in account and privacy, make sure to follow these steps. So allow customers to log in existing account during the checkout, allow customers to create an account, and allow to create an account on my account page. Once done, save the changes. At this point, if you click here, you will see that this page changed and you have login, register, or recovery password. In this way, if you want to allow external visitor to become authors, they can do it straight away from here. So you can link to this page and they can register. Once they fill in the form and register, they will receive an email. And they will need to confirm it. When you receive a notification about the new user registration, you can go to Users, edit the user, and set the role to podcast author. Once done, the user will already be able to create a new podcast. Hope this is going to help you out. In the next chapter, we are going to see how to set up a premium podcasting website. So how to connect WooCommerce, subscription, and make podcast paid to use content. Thank you for watching and see you on the next chapter.